This is actually a study they did, and they found that women who are on birth control choose mates who are more like their DNA. So they'd be more like a brother to them. It happened to me in my first marriage. I was on birth control. We had my son, and then immediately, like after I went off birth control, I was nursing him, and I was like, I want a divorce. I had a lot of friends that had kids when they were 16 and 17, and nothing will shake you to the core like being a mom when you're 16 years old. And naturally, that's about the age we should reproduce. Culture has told us no.
Tell them about your proclivity to choose a certain partner when you're on birth control versus not.
Yeah, so
this is interesting. Like with birth control and what it does to what you find attractive. We may have less control over our desires than we think we do. We might not be as autonomous as we think we are.
It's a little bit like a guy being drunk, maybe.
Right. So our picker's off when we take birth control. This is actually a study they did, and they found that women who are on birth control choose mates who are more like their DNA. So they'd be more like a brother to them. Right. So it's not their brother, and genetically they're not the same. Right. But they find weaker mates. And so the girls that are not on birth control find stronger mates, which tend to be the more bad boy type of men. And so they choose that because that genetic mismatch there will create a stronger gene in the child. Because the closer you get with your genes together and in harmony, and it's all energy, right? It's all energy. Like if you have two subdued people together, what are you going to have? A subdued child. So that's the whole key to it is these synthetic birth control are the fragrances, the plastic, all of these endocrine disruptors they're tanking our pickers. We don't have good pickers now. We can't pick the right mate for us.
And what a great recipe for divorce. Yep. You know, you get on birth control, you pick your partner, and then you want to have a kid, and now you fucking hate them, right? Because they're the opposite of what you really want.
It happened to me in my first marriage. I was on birth control. We had my son, and then immediately, like after I went off birth control, I was nursing him, and I was like, I want a divorce.
You got the ick immediately.
Yep. I want a divorce now. And we weren't right for each other. So yeah, it's crazy to think of the influences that are messing with us. And it's all hormonally driven. And it affects us minute by minute.
With birth control, right? Like it's good that more of the ways that it's actually harming women is coming out. But at the same time, I wonder, like, you know, people in poor economic like areas, right? Where, you know, you would like it if kids just like maybe used protection and they were more responsible with that because kids are going to have sex and they're going to have sex. But at the same time, they don't. And when somebody, a 17 or 16-year-old ends up with a kid, it's like, it's not easy. So what do you think should be some education behind this? Because like, that's just not a situation anybody wants to be in. And then there's the religious aspect too. If a 17-year-old or 18-year-old girl has a kid and the parents are super religious and like, you cannot get rid of this kid. It's a whole fucking horrible situation, right?
The thing that caused human population to explode, which was really convenient, which is that we're super horny and we reproduce like rabbits. It is really inconvenient now because we are getting into a point where exactly this problem is real, right? So I mean, yeah,
I would say it all goes back to parenting. You know, the parents have to take control of their child's desire to have sex and really it's just like you're teaching your kid to drive, right? They have to go through driver's ed, and then you allow them on the road with this thousands of pound weapon, basically, right?
Yeah.
So right now we have, you know, you go into the education system and it's basically worthless, but you know, you have sex ed and it's like, they're not teaching them shit. They're not really understanding. And that's where some of like the values, like the Christians, their values of like, you know, don't have sex until you're married. Like some of those values, whatever religion you are, whatever you choose, that needs to be brought back in. But I'll tell you, I had a lot of friends that had kids when they were 16 and 17, and nothing will shake you to the core like being a mom when you're 16 years old. Man, those women drive hard because they understand right away what they should be doing. And naturally, that's about the age we should reproduce. Culture has told us no.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I'm a young mom. I was 20 when I had my oldest son. So I was young, and I love it because he's going to now carry on the generation, and I'm young enough that I can now support the raising of my grandchildren when I have them. He's getting old for me. He's like 23 now. And I'm like, no girlfriend. And I'm like, oh, buddy, you better start on it because clock's a ticking. Like I have vital energy and I have to take these grandkids around with me everywhere. And I want to raise them. I want to help you raise them. I want to help your wife raise them because that's my role.
Yeah. I wanted to go back quickly because you were talking about how like you will actually bring periods back into women's lives. As mature as I can be with this topic because I have no clue on any of it. But just like when I researched diapers for my son, I'm like, okay, why is there scents, why is there a scent in these diapers? Like, why is there so much ink in these diapers? I do not want that around my son's junk.
Yeah.
I have my wife and I have my daughter who both are mature enough to go through their periods. And so like when that time of the month does come around, do you have any recommendations for like proper, I don't even know what the hell you call it down there's to help with, again, with that time of the month? Yes.
So period underwear, they are the best. So, you can buy organic pads, you can buy silicone inserts, plugs and tampons and whatever. I don't like having to stick anything up there. I think that is actually will mess with your, meridians.
I couldn't help it. I paused and I was like, I gotta say it.
I prompted it. I set it up to be like as mature as we can. And there we go.
It was always going there.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
So anything unnatural, I don't like, and tampons, even if they're organic cotton, that's still not, don't be doing that. In my opinion, I believe that if you can find a good pair of organic period underwear, they sell them all over now. That's the best because you're just letting everything come out. It's just more natural. That's what they used to do in the pioneer days, right? They just put cloth down there. And wearing a pad is okay, but it's not very pleasant as a woman. It's just like nobody really likes wearing one. They're bulky. They just get sweat. They make you feel sweaty. So the period underwear are the best. They're the way to go.
For the month of April, you're going to receive 25% off all Vivo barefoot shoes. Nsima, can you tell us why these shoes are so great?
For years on this podcast, we've been talking about the benefit of barefoot shoes. And these are the shoes I used to use back in like 2017, 2018. My old Metcons. They are flat, but they're not very wide and they're very stiff and they don't move. That's why we've been partnering with and we've been using Vivo barefoot shoes. These are the Modus Strength shoe because not only are they wide, I have wide ass feet and so do we here on the podcast, especially as our feet have gotten stronger, but they're flexible. So when you're doing certain movements, like let's say you're doing jumping or you're doing split squats or you're doing movements where your toes need to flex and move, your feet are able to do that and perform in this shoe, allowing them to get stronger over time. And obviously, they're flexible. So your foot's allowed to be a foot. And when you're doing all types of exercise, your feet will get stronger, improving your ability to move. Andrew, how can they get their hands on these?
Yes, and for the month of April, you're going to receive 25% off all of your Vivo barefoot shoes. That is a limited time deal for the month of April only. So if you've been waiting for the perfect time to buy your Vivo barefoot shoes, now is that time. Head over to vivobarefoot.com/powerproject, enter the code for April, and receive 25% off your entire order. Link is in the description as well as the podcast show notes.
I heard some women say like, my period is rough and I can't actually wait to stop for this to actually stop. And that's why some of them actually like birth control because maybe it doesn't give, right? So in those situations for women who have rougher periods, I mean, what's your advice there?
Hormones. And typically what I tell my girls is it usually is always connected back to a high insulin environment because endometriosis, polycystic ovarian syndrome, which is really diabetes of the ovaries, and fibroid cysts, polyps, all of that stuff, skin tags, that's all connected back to too much insulin in your body. So what we see, we have a girl in our group, her name's Allison, and she had endometriosis, she had polycystic ovarian syndrome, she was hospitalized, she went without her period for a year, and her kids are teenagers, she's nowhere near menopause. And she came into my group, she'd been vegan for many years. And she's like, I know my body needs this. I just keep getting the message. And so she joined in and within 6 weeks, she started getting her period again. And she had a picture, which I show in my class that I do. Her stomach was bloated like she was 8 months pregnant. And now her stomach is flat as mine, flat as a rail. She had a picture on Facebook of her in a sports bra and her jeans. And her stomach is flat as a rail after 10 weeks of working with our insulin. So her bloating was from her endometriosis. It was from her polycystic ovarian syndrome. It was just a huge not pregnant belly.
So step back, right? So the idea is like, with rare exception, your body's not broken, right? There's this belief that like, oh, I'm broken. No, you're not. So I always point to epigenetic environment again, right? So I always go back to this because this is how if we want to take our power back from big pharma and everything else, we got to start thinking like this. So right on the American Cancer Society website. So if you go there, you'll see that it says no more than 5 to 10% of cancer is purely genetic, right? So what do you get from that, right? Like, oh, okay, interesting. Well, what it really means is that 90 to 95% of cancer comes from your lifestyle, right? And now do you think it's just cancer, or do you think it's pretty much everything? Right. So now there's some rare exceptions, Down syndrome, right? There's some genetic diseases, type 1 diabetes, right? Like, I'm not going to get rid of that necessarily by fixing my environment. But the idea is your body isn't broken, right? So you have your original question was, well, the women with the terrible menstrual cycles, but that is the same as women with headaches, or women with this RA, or women like this, or women like that. And the discussion needs to get back to, you're not broken, something in your environment is. Because our genes aren't as different as we want to believe that they are. They aren't. We're 99% the same. So why are we expressing so differently, right? And the truth is that our environments are all over the place. That's why we're so bio-individual. Our environments are all fucked up. And again, environment isn't just where you're standing. It's the things that are causing your genes to express. So why are we bio-individual? Why are some women dealing with that? Why are some women dealing with migraines, right? Could it be that is their environment the exact same as theirs? So what I like to do with like a mind game or a mind experiment. We get women on these discovery Zooms where they're, asking us questions about what we do and how we can help them. And I say, all right, just pretend, all 60 of you right now, just pretend that we all got transplanted to the most beautiful tropical island that you could ever imagine, right? We're on a beach. We're outside during the day. We're outside during the night. We're sleeping under the stars. We're eating perfect fish and food from the island. Nothing's been tainted. Nothing is toxic. Everything is beautiful. Your family's around. Everybody's happy. And look, there's challenges. There should be challenges in life. Humans are great, and they're best when they're dealing with challenges. So there's the normal challenges, but stress isn't too much. Of those 60 people, how many are going to get better? Every fucking one of them, right? So it's not that our genes are that much different. It's that our environment is. So if we want to start searching for the things that are causing these problems, like the menstrual cycles, like the headaches, we got to stop with what's wrong with me. And we got to start with what's wrong with my environment. What's causing me to my genes to express poorly? Because by the time your genes are expressing poorly, that's too late. That's your body's cry for help. It's a cry for you to change your environment. You should give the hot and cold thing. The hot and cold.
So the game where you play hot and cold with a kid and you hide something in a room, and then you direct them to find that object by saying, oh, you're hot, you're close to it, you're on fire. And then they know they're at the spot at the location of the object. So I tell my girls, and it's just like that in nature. Okay. So if you have good energy, if you have a sex drive, if you're alert, if you're focused, if you're happy, if you're skinny, right? All of those things is nature's way of telling you you're hot. You're on the money. You are in the right spot. Your environment is perfect. Stay there. When you're tired, when you're fatigued, when you're fat, when your
menstrual cycles are crazy.
Yeah. When you have all these autoimmune conditions, your thyroid's tanked. It's the wrong environment for you. There's something, whether it's the food you're eating, the supplements you're taking, the prescriptions you're taking, the light you're around, the temperature you're in, all of that is affecting your body all the time.
We didn't adapt to live in a cave that is synthetic with synthetic light. Like, this isn't where our genes came from. Humans appeared 200 to 300,000 years ago, right? Not in this room. We were out in nature, right? And when you go back out in nature, these things clear up. I mean, look at MS, multiple sclerosis. It almost doesn't exist at the equator. I mean, that doesn't tell you something, right? It's not you that's broken. It's your environment.
Hi there. I know you guys like this video, so check this one out.